Hey Ryan, how are you tonight?
I am tired, but good. Well, how are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to talk to you. So tonight we're going to talk about competitive games and co-op games. First, talk about some competitive games and get going with that. Uh, I hear you have a new favorite game behind you tonight. You want to tell me about that game behind you
Are you talking about my favorite game?
of all time?
Castles of Ron Burgundy, Castles of Burgundy, Castles of Burgundy.
So who made that game there?
Steffenfeld.
Yep.
Uh, this is my favorite game.
What,
Uh,
what do you like about it?
um, well, it's got that Euro engine builder that everybody likes, and the one thing that people don't realize, or maybe they do, and maybe I'm just really slow to realize it, is that while you're building your engine by yourself and trying to score more victory points to win, there's actually a really good mess with your neighbor mechanic in the game, because if
Uh-huh.
you see the engine that they're building, you can actually buy the things that they need for their engine and disrupt their plans. So it actually has a lot more depth than maybe a lot of those engine building Euros feel like they have, which
Right.
I like about it, which my wife hates about it. So
Have you seen the? Because you always mess with her when she's doing her engine building.
she made like an unstoppable. Yeah.
Okay,
It gets a little unstoppable, and then you're like, oh well, I'll just disrupt that.
fair enough. Um, have you played any of his other games like Notre Dame or I don't know? He's got I can't think of them right now, but he's got several.
I think I'm maybe, but I don't. I know there's like Tzolk'in is him, I believe.
Is that
Uh,
Steffenfeld? I don't think. See, we're gonna sound like idiots tonight, but that's okay.
I
Um,
mean, that's my life. I just play games and enjoy them. I don't know how many. I feel like I have played more of his.
yeah.
Maybe I would look stuff up on the internet, but I don't know how.
So he did in the Year of the Dragon, Notre Dame, Pillars of the Earth, but not the Builder's Duel, not the board game. Macao, Luna, Strasbourg, Trajan, which is a great game. Bora, which I could take or leave. Bruges, which is getting a reprint. Um, Carpe Diem, which is okay, and he's got Castles of Tuscany coming out this year. Uh,
I mean, it has castles in it and Steffenfeld, so I'll probably love it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know what I'm talking about with Tzolk'in or how to pronounce that,
Um, um,
but I also haven't played it.
all right. Well, that's okay. No, I am looking forward to seeing what happens with Castles of Tuscany. What's crazy about that one, because speaking of silly things that go on in a Board Game Geek, in the kind of hot box that Board Game Geek can be for board gamers, is it had ratings like a lot of other games before any of the pictures had been released for it, or even like demo copies had gone out to anybody. People were rating it either high because it was just a Steffenfeld game in the line of Castles of Burgundy. You know, they love it, Castles of Burgundy, like you. But there's also some Steffenfeld haters out there, and because it's kind of a follow-up to Castles of Burgundy, there are people on the other side who are like, no. There's no way that this can be rated a 10. I don't care how much you love Steffenfeld and Castles of Burgundy. This is going to be a 3. And so people were doing that whole
Before they've ever played it.
before either side had ever played it. Just the internet being amazing, like the internet can be,
That
and,
is amazing, amazing something.
right. So, anyways, that game is coming out. I think it's going to be fully released around the time of Essen, which is all online this year. The family that run. Did you know that Essen is a family like that runs Essen? And the world's biggest board game convention is like it was started and run and it continues to be run by like one family. Um,
I always thought that there was some mystery and intrigue to Essen. You know, it's called Essen, and their big award is called the Spiel des Jahres. You know,
Play
and
the
I
game
was
here?
like, man, this is cool. And then I was like, oh, it's just in Essen, Germany, and that just means Game of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all it means.
One day I realized that, and I was like, oh, well, that's not nearly as intriguing.
Yep. Yep. Just like
I did
game.
not know it was a family affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like flying.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So my game, I have one too to share as Root, which you haven't got to play yet. We're going to play this winter. And I brought it to the conversation because one, it's in my top 10 for competitive games. Personally, it's asymmetrical. You got the different little factions that do different things, and it's cutesy. And this is probably people have to know this, but like if you read the Redwall books growing up, it kind of feels similar to those. That you got cute little forest animals that are trying to battle the bad forest animals for control of the forest and so forth. But you can also play it cooperatively. And they improved the co-op mechanism in the fact that now you can do different factions that you're playing against. And I think the great part about that is, we kind of mentioned last week, it's good to teach people games in different ways. And this game, being an asymmetrical game, the co-op version is a great way to teach the people the game. I didn't even think about it that way until a coworker, Cubby, he was like, that's how we played it. He played it with his son that way. And they played it as a co-op game, and he's like, "Oh, so much easier." But now his son gets the game a little better, and he can, and other people too. He can play it with them competitively because they started as the co-op, and I think that's a great way to do a co-op.
Takes a lot of those feelings out of the equation.
Yeah, exactly. So the teaching isn't just a boring, let me read you the rules experience, but instead it's like, here's how we're going to play and let's play it together. And so it is still kind of quarterbacking, but not in a bad way. It's of, hey, we're going to do this together.
Tutorial.
Yeah. And win something, which is a lot more fun, right? So,
yeah. I look forward to playing it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I know a lot of people that that I know that I respect, including yourself, enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just fun, and it's fun that you can pick different factions and try different routes to victory and all that.
Are we going to play co-op?
I'm sorry.
Are we going to play co-op? So there's no hard.
I think that you're quick enough, and you know a lot of different game mechanics that you would pick up on without the need. Plus, I just want to try to beat you. We got to catch up from the last time when I taught you Stone Age and you trounced me terribly.
That was fun.
It was fun, but now I need to beat you. So, and on that note, I prefer competitive games in general. There's a few co-op games that I like, but I prefer competitive games to co-op games. And I think we talked about this in the very first episode, for the fact that I think co-op games just too easily lend themselves to that quarterbacking element, too easily to that. If there's somebody who is a strong personality or an overbearing personality in the group, they become something where that person just takes over. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think, and then also like for co-ops, if you have like a lot of competitive players, you can have people who, there can be disagreements even though everybody's working towards like the best goal of the game. Mm-hmm. There can just be general disagreements and strategies sometimes, which can be frustrating and mulled over. I think the way that co-op for me would shine the best, because I prefer competitive games, is with some secret information. Sidetrack, I played with some competitive guys before, the Dracula game.
Theory of Dracula? Yeah, second edition. We played a lot. Yeah.
And the person playing Dracula was a very good player. But there's hidden knowledge. Anything that you say at the table to your co-op people, Dracula knows. So, and he's a really good player, and he's an amazing player. And we go into battle, and I go into battle, and if I lose, we all lose. but I knew how he played, and I had like a special card. I forget what it was. Anyway, I won.
Yeah.
We won. However, during the whole process, I was getting yelled at that I'm going to lose everyone the game because statistically Dracula is going to beat me in XYZ, and then statistically, this will also happen. But nobody knew that
Right.
I had like a card that just countered him killing me. Like, these are the best attacks
Yeah.
in this. So I find that co-ops work best if there's some hidden information so that people can't decide what your character's or your agency's best course of action is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of the. So I don't love dice checking. And then I'm going to say this, and then we'll move on. I will, if I can help it, I will never play Pandemic: The Cure again. Have you ever played that one?
No,
It,
that was
it,
actually on my buy list for a while, and then I stopped buying games.
okay. Well, maybe you would have, but I don't like dice checking where there's a big amount of reliance on the randomness of the dice, so that you can't do anything to mitigate it. And secondly, it's a co-op, so there's tons of randomness. There's tons of opportunity for quarterbacking. Of, well, you better do this, and if you don't do this, then you're hurting us. And then the fact that some people are sticklers for rules, and so like if I'm going to play Pandemic or something like that, I'm going to be like, let's just play for fun and pick roles that we
Yeah,
want to, not have to stick with the randomness of whatever's flipped up, because sometimes whatever cards are flipped up are just terrible as far as how they work together,
yeah,
Yeah, and that game just has all of that going against it. And then I had to play with people that were rule sticklers for a random game. So but on the opposite side, there is one cooperative game that I love, and I know you love too, because we've talked about it before, and that is D&D, which involves a huge amount of dice checking. And but I think the thing about D&D, and I don't know that we need to even come back to this, I think it's its own category, and
yeah.
it really depends on the group that you're playing with. And if you don't have a good experience with D&D from the start, that's when people start being like, well, I can't make it Wednesday night to the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But when
I mean,
people have
RPGs are they're completely different
right,
beast.
right,
The rules moderator is there at the table running the game,
yeah,
and yes, there are rules, and you can argue the rules with them, and depending on the DM, and I think with all games, RPGs, tabletop, board games. When I say tabletop, I mean tabletop board gaming, but board games, all that stuff. It really comes down to the group that you're playing with. I like competitive games. I like to play to win. Overall, I want to play to have fun, and
yeah,
I like to
exactly.
experiment and try out things.
Yep,
And I have a play style that I play a lot of the times if games allow it. And sometimes a game will have a play style in its design that really fits mine, and then I shine.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I play that certain way, and that happens a lot with CCGs and card games, Magic and stuff like that, where you get a play style that works for you that's in the set, and you're like, "Ching, I'm a good player again."
yeah. Um, so all that aside, um, let's take a look at our list. I'm going to pull it up here. And okay, here we go. So since we kind of broke it up into competitive games and co-op games, this is from earlier in the week. This might have already changed now. I haven't checked it again, but we'll talk about games that show up in the top 20 for top 20 competitive games, and then we'll talk about some that are down near 20,000 or 19,000 or below in the bad game. So yeah, we'll just get started here. All right. So Brass Birmingham. Brass Birmingham is a re-implementation of Brass Lancashire, and it also came out under a different name back in the day. But And that's what I think is interesting about this is that Brass, when it originally came out, yeah, it was decently liked and everything, but not as highly as it is now. And it seems like there's two things going on with that. One, people are getting into heavier games than they used to. And let's circle back around to this. But secondly, the art does look a whole lot better. The original game, Brass, was it was okay. It looked like it was from like 2005, 2000, even though it was a 2010 game. It just had that older, artwork look that a lot of heavier games used to have. Heavier kind of Euro resource management games had.
I just looked at the cover, and I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but
right.
Play that.
Yeah, but it definitely didn't look as good, and with the re-implementation, especially with the Brass Birmingham version, which redid Lancashire and all that, I think it does look more appealing. There's no doubt about that. Both in the game components and the cover, like it looks like, oh, there's something cool going on here. Compared, right?
yeah. I haven't seen the old art, so I'll have to check that out. I was just looking at the Birmingham update.
Yeah. So you pre-show we were kind of talking about this. I think, and I'd love to hear what you think too, but I think there's kind of a self-justification thing going on here with how high this game is ranked right now. And I'm not saying it's a bad game, but I think that there's this thing of the hotbox thing that we talked about, like where geeks are like, oh, this is good because I bought it and you bought it and we bought it, so we have to all rank it high together because we all spent money on it and we all think it's good, and it's a difficult enough game that we should rank it higher. And I think well, and this is going to get me in trouble and we'll come back to it, but it's definitely true for the number one game on Board Game Geek, and again, this is my opinion, but it's our show, right?
What's number one right now?
Gloomhaven.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I haven't played it. I was in a group we were going to set up for it, and then I got really busy with life for the last couple of years.
We'll come back to that one on the co-op part.
We're gonna hit at some point on our list some commentary about that kind of stuff with one of my favorite games. That's not Castles of Burgundy.
Okay, so that's all. I just think it's an okay game, but why did it shoot to the top? I think it's those two things. It's towards the top right now.
Yeah, I look forward to playing it with you or anyone at this point.
Which one?
Birmingham.
Sure.
Gloomhaven, I don't know, man. The legacy games. Well, I have a particular gripe with legacy games.
Well, and technically, it's not a legacy; it's a campaign game, right? So,
there's I don't know. There's a barrier of entry of just being able to have the time to run that kind of campaign,
right?
And they're their own subset of games,
Yeah.
And I love the concept. Don't get me wrong. And I have maybe have played a campaign game before in my life.
Yeah. So let's move on. That's what I think about that one. You haven't played it. I haven't played it a lot, but it's fine. Terraforming Mars. I love the game. It's also in my top. It is in my top 10. I think it teaches you to not have to read everything in a game, because if you read everything, and that's something that somebody who's teaching the game should say, is like, don't worry about every card, don't worry about every strategy, just focus on a strategy, pass the cards, have fun. And if you have that type of approach to Terraforming Mars, it's a fantastic game.
Mm-hmm. And then if you play it a lot with your friends, it does lend itself to hate drafting and disrupting other people's plans by disallowing them from having cards that are good for them.
Absolutely. But the fantastic thing about that game is there's so many paths to victory that even with doing that, and I think that's a fun thing about that game, is that you can see that and you can disrupt, but it's still fun because there's other paths of victory open to you.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, if I'm hate drafting every card for you, then I'm not getting cards for myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not completely feasible. But I do really enjoy that game. When I first saw it, and when I first had a demo of it or a playthrough, I remember thinking, what am I playing? This is, why is there a giant deck of cards? And recently, pre-pandemic, I had a group, and we got together like once a month, and we played through probably 5 or 6 games, with all the expansions at one point, and it got pretty wild, and it was always enjoyable.
Cool. Awesome. Through the Ages, you haven't played. I like it a lot. I can understand why it's ranked high. It's just this thing where you do have to deal with some scarcity because there's some corruption that's going to happen as you have more people working for you, building the different types of buildings. There's military. There's your basic building block buildings. I forget what they call them. And then there's like your culture stuff in it. So you have cards, and some of those cards age out as you go through the civilization. Honestly, because it is a little bit hard to teach, I play the app more now than anything.
Can you play the app with other people, I assume?
You can, or you can just play it by yourself, and the AI is decent. So it's one of my favorite board game apps. And it's on sale every once in a while for like $2 or $3. So yeah, for something that's a little bit thinky and you don't have to set up, because the setup is something that makes that one a higher barrier for entry.
I think I did start playing it, and then we started setting it up, and we were like, it was at a convention, in the library, and we pulled it out, opened it, went and got Blood Rage.
To the side, yeah. So, anyways, I understand why people like that game. I also understand why it's probably going to drop in the rankings because of that setup time and the app being out.
It's an older game too, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the newer version of it. It's been around for a while, though. I think it was CGB back when it was CGB before it became CGE, Czech Games Edition, that company. So next, these aren't the same in the ranking, but we'll talk about them at the same time because they're very similar games, and you pointed this out, and I agree. And they're also both in my top 10 because I love war games, and they are war games, and they're asymmetrical. Star Wars Rebellion and War of the Ring, 2nd edition.
Oh my goodness, I just realized theming, I know exactly what I would rather play of the two.
Yeah, which one?
Not Star Wars.
Okay. I think Star Wars is easier to teach, though, and the rules are written a little better. I think that War of the Ring is, I love it. It's a fantastic game. The rule book could be improved for ease of teach.
Yeah. War of the Ring feels grindy, and Star Wars, when we played, felt very loose. Like it felt easier to play, whereas War of the Ring has always felt a little like setting up and playing feels a little grindy on the brain. So I totally agree there.
Yeah, but they're both really, really well done games, and they do play like war games, and they do play asymmetrically. I like all those parts about it because, in a real war, you're not going to have 2 evenly matched forces. You're going to be moving against each other anyways. So that
if it has asymmetric in it, I will always try it at least, and if it's good, I'll love it.
Yeah. Gaia Project and Terra Mystica, basically the same game. Like I mentioned to you the other day, they are now published by Capstone instead of Z-Man, which is awesome. Cincinnati, like my background here and where you're at right now. So
stone's throw from the Ohio River.
Yep.
So Terra Mystica, we had a conversation yesterday about this. So I'll bring it up. I really like Terra Mystica. A friend of mine, an amazing man, owns it. I think you know him. But I always feel like, because we always want to play it, but we'd only play it like once every 2 years. So then we had to like pretty much relearn it once every 2 years. Yeah. But I feel like the game end timer of X amount of turns, 5 turns or whatever, is arbitrary because they couldn't balance the races. Yeah. So they were just like, well, these races are a little bit overpowered at 6.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to end the game at 5.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's definitely one of those, both of them are definitely games that lend themselves to, if you know the game really well, you're just going to run away with it.
Yeah. And
So
there's so much going on with it that like I'm always like, oh, I remember how to play Terra Mystica, and then we bust it out, and I'm like, I forgot about these two other boards, or really, it's just the one magic board, and then you have to.
the new expansions have helped deal with some of the imbalances before. For Terra Mystica, so that is pretty cool. The merchants one that's out now, so you can move differently. So we'll have to come back to that and play it again and relearn it all over again.
I'm due. It's been 2 years.
Yep. I'm going to save this game, not because it's my favorite game, but I'm going to save it to the end of this part here of good games. Let's go ahead and talk about Great Western Trail. You haven't played that one. Great Western Trail, you're bopping up to Kansas City. You have different choices both on the map and on your individual player board. So it's rondel in that fashion that you get to choose what you're going to do. I think that you will like this one a lot. I think that you'll probably, if you play it a couple times, will also be able to find some paths to victory that will game it.
Frustrate my opponent.
Both frustrate your opponent and find some really good ways to win. It is a really, really good game though. And along with that one, I think Maracaibo is a really good game. I don't know that we need to say anything else about it right now because you haven't played it yet.
I've seen the box art.
Yeah, the box art. What do you think of that?
It's isn't it? If I recall, if I were to judge that book by its cover, there might have been a reason where I was like, maybe I'm not going to play that yet.
Yeah. So the box art looks like it's like one guy posing for 3 different guys. So whoever did that box art, I don't know what was going on with it, but it's like they just kind of changed his face a little bit. And
now I have to look at it.
Yeah, go ahead and look at it real quick because it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
How terrible it is. Like it got nominated for worst box art of all time. I don't think it's that, but
no, it's definitely not that.
It's in the top 50.
It looks like a rail game. I like that it has the word rail in it, Great Western Trail, rail, because it looks like a 19XX game. Box art. One that doesn't have a train on it.
Yeah. We're probably going to get, if any number of people listen to this, we'll get some people who are like, why didn't you include any 18XX? Well, I sat with some 18XX guys one night just to see if it would be interesting. And so we started at like 9, maybe a little bit after. At midnight, they were like, "Oh, we're almost done." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I can stay another hour." They're like, "Yeah, we should be done within an hour." At 1, they're like, "We're almost done." I was like, "Another round, 15 minutes, 20 minutes." Yeah, we'll be done. It ended up being like 3:00 in the morning, and these were all experienced players who were like, "This is one of the short 18x games." And the entire time I was watching, the whole thing felt like just like accounting, like stock trading and accounting, which I'm like, if I'm going to do that, I want to make actual money in the real world doing that. I don't want to do it in a game that is just like shoving little.
I don't know, man. I want to get some plexiglass and some wax crayons and I want to get
crayon. Yeah, don't even get me started on crayon games.
And I just want to play some train games someday because I feel like the older guys get it sometimes. Here I am playing fantasy and science fiction miniatures, but those guys in the suspenders, they've been playing war games for a long time. Historicals, I think they get it, and I think it's the same way with train games. I think that there's some magic there, and I just need to find it.
Maybe so. I mean, there is one crayon game. I can't think of the name right now, and I'll put the link in the video form of this. But there is one crayon game that is a fantasy train crayon game. So we'll have to look that one up.
I mean, I don't know. We should just go for pure realism.
Okay.
Is it Board Game Games, the podcast, or is it, what's the name of that game again? Podcast. There's like over 20,000 games. Come on now.
Oh, I know. So we already talked about Castles of Burgundy. Let's do these 2 real quick, and then we'll move to the bad ones.
Which one were you skipping?
I'm skipping 3 things right now. Scythe, Real quick, Jamie Stegmaier, give me your opinion real quick. Good designer, bad designer?
I like the games, and back when I was a lot more active on stuff, I think that he is an all-around admirable dude.
Okay, cool. I enjoy Scythe. I just think it needs to do a better job of advertising itself as an engine builder and not really a war game at all. And we'll leave it at that.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
I mean, I like Scythe. Yeah.
no, I do too, but it's not a war game, and it looks like it's like an improved version of Risk, right, with the mechs and everything.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I don't. I'm not a big Risk fan.
Sure. Oh, well, and
So,
that's
so
yeah,
if I thought it was Risk, I would have been like, I don't really want to play this.
right. Seven Wonders Duel, which is a re-implementation of the classic and now redone just this last week. Seven Wonders. I love the new artwork. If you haven't seen it, it looks really cool on Seven Wonders. But Seven Wonders Duel, 2-player game, strips it down, makes it really fast setup. I think it's just amazing.
And you should play it against my wife. She is
Oh,
punishing at that game.
awesome.
That one's a good one that has tempo.
Yeah.
And if you can get a tempo, you can obstruct other people's movements while getting what you want. And she's very good at that.
Yeah. And the randomness is dealt with again by the fact, the flipping over the cards as they come up. Again, there's always different paths to victory. Yep. So there's that, and then the last one, the big one we haven't talked about, which is for a lot of people, they either love it or hate it or just don't get it, and that is TI4. I know you haven't played TI4, but you've played TI3, and TI4 just has a lot of the stuff.
I think we have some confusion on this. Wait, we have some confusion on this list.
What is that?
That's Twilight Struggle, not Twilight Imperium.
Oh, I forgot to put both of them on. Oh, okay. I meant to put both of them. Okay. So okay. Both Twilight games. Twilight games.
The Stephanie Meyer's collection.
Yes.
and then you play I sold it. The 4X one, that's a smaller one. Eclipse, Twilight of an Empire. And then
that was some guy had to come out this last week, and he was like, I don't care what you say, but Eclipse 2nd edition, which is coming out this fall, is way better than TI4, and anybody who thinks otherwise, he's basically like, you're dumb. just coming out with stuff.
Well, you talk about TI4. I've only played TI3. I was very tired each time I've played it. It was very long. I don't remember much. I remember having a very good time playing it, but the experience that I was left with was for TI3 was not like negative what I've been doing for what have I been doing for the last 10 hours, but like, why did this game take 10 hours?
Well, that's a different story that we might have to cover elsewhere. But I think, okay, so yeah, you're right. I forgot to put TI4 on here. I think TI4 is a fantastic game because it combines like diplomacy and that sort of thing, but also area control, and it feels so thematic. You're just doing the whole like, I'm in space and I'm conquering planets, and you get to do that for a little bit until you bump up against the other people, and then once you bump against other people, you're both doing the war thing and area control and lying and everything else as you try to take over the galaxy. I think all that's fun. I think it's more than just the Ameritrash that some people try to say that it is, and that's the controversy for some people. Some people won't touch it who are like Euro purists because they say, oh, with the lying and the diplomacy thing, like, why were you even doing that? I don't want to take that stuff. Okay, fine. But it's a really good, and there is plenty of thinky stuff in it. There's plenty of brain burner of like, okay, what I need to do, and here's the truth of it. Unless maybe you just have a really bad like office or work environment where you don't want to deal with people anymore, you're gonna have to deal with people your whole life, right? So why not do it in a constructive game environment? But maybe you don't have a good constructive game group, and that's why you avoid those types of games. I can get that.
Yeah, I think that they're tightening it up too as they go.
Yeah.
and they're dropping off a lot of the more Ameritrade. I mean, I haven't played TI4, but I think there's a big push to streamline and make games better, especially when you're releasing a new edition that's what retails for $90, $120. How much is it now?
140.
Oh, I was way off.
Yeah, it's an expensive game.
I mean, yeah, so you gotta warrant that.
But and again, this is we won't talk too much about it, but I think the difference between like so it's the same price point area as Gloomhaven. I think the difference between TF4 and Gloomhaven is you can actually get it to the table, and once everybody knows what they're doing, you can get a game out in 4 to 5 hours. Well, and then you can do that again in a month or two, and so you could get conceivably 3 or 4 games in a year, which is still not tons, but as far as having, if you have 5 people that can get together and do that 4 or 5 times a year, I think that's worth the money for what it is.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree there.
While Gloomhaven, you're going to be stuck. Well, we'll leave that for later.